My name is Ronald Holdsworth.
When were you born, Ronnie?
When?
Yes.
September the 13th, 1921.
And where were you born? Whereabouts?
In the town of Bradford in Yorkshire.
Yes. And had your father got a military background?
He was in the army in World War One.
And did he talk to you much about that?
Oh no, he never talked about being in the army. I think he was just glad to get out.
Right. Okay. So did you go to school in Bradford?
Yes.
And were you like that generation? Did you leave at the age of 14, that sort of time?
At the time I went to school, well, you know, the school leaving age then was 14.
Right.
Yes.
High school was 16.
Right. Okay.
So most of us went to work when we were 14 or 16. Yeah.
So you left school sort of like in the mid 1930s.
Yes. Yeah, about 7, somewhere around there.
At that time, were you aware of what was going on in Europe politically and what was going on in Germany?
Well, there's a little bit of turmoil going on and that kind of thing, but being young, you don't think all that much about it, you know. Then all of a sudden, there it comes. I believe the war broke out on, well, let's see. Germany invaded Poland, I think on the 1st of September,
Yes.
1939. And then Britain and France got involved on the 3rd of September.
Yes.
So that was the starting of World War II, yeah.
So what were you doing at the start of the war? What were you doing? Were you working?
I was working for a paper and twine merchant, yeah.
Oh, right. In Bradford, was that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was working for him until I volunteered for the Air Force, which was, I think, if I'm not quite sure now, I think it was February 1940. See, war broke out on the 1st of September, and I was 18 on the 13th of September. Yeah. And I knew by then that at some time or other, I'd have to go in the service.
Had you got any older brothers or sisters who were also in the service?
I had one brother and I had sisters, yeah.
And did they go into the services?
Well, what happened was when I volunteered, well, to tell you the truth, I went to join the Navy.
Right.
But they told me I'd have to sign up for 7 years. And I said, no way. I said, I might not like it that much, you know. And they said, well, you'll have to take a chance on what they want you to do. And I said, well, just my luck, I'll probably have to go in the army. So I volunteered for the Air Force. And I believe I think it was February. And then I had to report to Padgett and with a bunch of other guys. And because they were overcrowded, couldn't handle us all, they sent some of us back home.
But your Uncle Stanley was in the service as well, right?
Yeah.
When did it happen?
My brother, so we were sent back home. And when I went back home, they'd called my brother up and he went in the army.
Right.
So I went back to work for a couple of months and then I got recalled, went back to Padgett, and there was still jam-packed there. We just got, they just got time to kit us out, give us a meal, shoved us on the train and sent us to Blackpool. And at Blackpool, we were in private digs for probably about 6 weeks. And then when we finished there, we were all sent to different places. And I think about 8 of us ended up at Dishforth in Yorkshire, at Whitley Bomber Station.
Yep.
And there we did whatever they told us to do, you know, guard duty, airfield, working on the Hispanos, it was either cannons, you know, that surrounded the airfield. And I got fed up with that. I volunteered for aircrew and I said, oh, we can't take you for aircrew. Yeah. You know, they still wanted the highbrow kids in the aircrew there. So I volunteered. I asked to go on a mechanics course, so I was sent on a mechanics course, and I ended up as an airframe mechanic. I went to Innsworth Lane, and then when I graduated from there, I was home on leave, and I was told to report to it. It's a little airfield just outside London, near Hounslow, somewhere around there. And I was only there for about a month or so, and I was sent home on leave. And then I was told to report to, what was the name of the place? Winslow in Cheshire. And that's when I found out I was going abroad. So we sailed in April sometime for South Africa.
Okay, Ronnie, can I just pause you there just to get a bit more about what's happened so far?
Okay.
So, had you seen any of the Battle of Britain that was going on at this point? Had you witnessed any
When
of
I
the
was,
attacks?
when I was at Innsworth Lane, occasionally we'd see aircraft flying over, you know, not a lot, but sometimes we'd see a few, and that because we didn't see any bomb dropping or anything like that. No, so I didn't see anything there really, apart from an odd aircraft now and again.
So you were keen to get into aircrew, to actually volunteer to be in the air.
When we left England to go abroad, it was during the night off the coast of West Africa. We hear this big bump, you know, the ship rocked, all the lights went out. And we thought, just how look, we've been torpedoed. But evidently it wasn't that. Our ship and another ship had collided in the night. One had turned port, the other had turned starboard, and that was it. Anyway, we didn't suffer a lot of damage. The other ship got more damage than we did. We carried on and we got to Durban. We left that ship in Durban, put us in a camp for a couple of weeks. Another ship came along and it took us up to Egypt. So I was in Egypt for, I'm not sure, a month, a couple of months, something like that. And then they put us on another ship from Mombasa for Kenya. And we ended up at a place called Nakuru, which was 70 operational training unit. They had Blenheims. And I was there from about August till May the following year, working as an aircraft mechanic. Then then I went down to Nairobi, and I worked in the maintenance unit there for about 6 months, probably. But I didn't do a lot of aircraft work. I mostly worked in the office. The engineering officer found out that I'd done some office work or whatever, you know, in a civilian life. So he wanted somebody that could do the technical plus the paperwork. So he kept me in the office. And then one day he got promoted, so he got moved, and they got a new engineering officer. And he said, "What are you doing in here?" I said, "Well," they wanted somebody that could do the paperwork as well as. He said, "Well, your place is outside." So I go back outside on the floor at work. And it was not very long after that when some in Madagascar, some guy fell off a wall and damaged his back. They had to have somebody replace him. So this new technical officer sent me, just me, nobody else. Went by train down to Mombasa and then on a small freighter to, well, we went to the Seychelles Isles first and then to Madagascar. And I was in Madagascar for about 4 months, somewhere around about that. Then one day, the clerk came up to me. Well, while I was in Madagascar, we had a couple of Lysanders. That's all we had, you know, we worked on those. Your aircrew training's come through. That had followed me around all the time,
So
Ronnie, I remember that some veterans told me when they arrived at Durban, there used to be a lady on the quay side who would sing as the boats were coming.
yeah, that's right. Yes,
Was she in a white dress or something like that?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
She used to welcome the ships, the troop ships when they came in. Yeah.
What a lovely welcome. So you're traveling all around Africa, and just to help me get a time frame of this. So this is around about 1941 that this is taking place. So the campaigns are going in on North Africa, the campaigns against the Italians. I guess
Mhm.
the Blenims you were working on, were they involved in Ethiopia? Was it the Ethiopian campaigns?
The Blenims, well, it was an operational training unit. There's three men in a crew.
Right.
They would finish their training and then they go up to North Africa.
Yeah, for that fight. Okay. So just to help me again with time frames, you received the notification that you've been granted aircrew. You can go on to aircrew. Do you know an approximate date of when you received that?
Let's say it was April 40, let's see, 43, I think it was.
Okay, so
I think it was April 43. I went to Nairobi, and then they sent us back down to Rhodesia overland. We did our training in Rhodesia and then came back to England via the canal and that, through the Med. And then ended up at Harrogate, then to Catterick, where we crewed up. And then we did our initial training on Wellingtons up at Lossiemouth.
okay, can I ask you to pause again there, Ronnie? So April 43. So the stage we are at in the war is El Alamein has happened. We're pushing the Germans out of North Africa, moving up through Tunisia and Sicily. But the bomber offensive in the United Kingdom is escalating at this point. And we've got the 4-engine bombers are coming, so they need more aircrew. So you arrive at Harrogate, and then you went to operational to Catterick.
We went to Catterick, and that's where we met each other.
Okay, so can I ask you about that? Because I think that's quite a unique experience. How did the crews form up? What was the process the RAF used to form the crews?
Well, when we went to Catterick, we was in this great big room. I can't remember, it's so long ago, but all these different categories of aircrew, gunners, wireless ops, navigators, pilots, whatever, are all roaming around. And how do you do? Get to know each other, one thing or another. And eventually, 6 of us got together. I remember Jock, the pilot, coming up to me and said, I need a gunner. I need a rear gunner. How about it? So I said, have you got the rest of the crew yet? He said, no, not yet, but we're all trying to get together. Well, eventually 6 of us got together. And that's how they crewed up.
So, which is quite an extraordinary way of putting a crew together, but it seems to have been quite effective. Is that?
Yeah, they didn't detail you're going to fly with them. You just each other. Yeah.
So at this stage, you're about to go on to Wellington. So you haven't got your flight engineer yet. He comes a bit
No.
later. So am I correct that you had was there a New Zealander in the crew as you had?
Yeah, Jock, the pilot, was a Scotsman.
Yeah.
Then we had Bob Kennedy, a New Zealander. He was a navigator. Yeah.
And I think was there an Australian as well, or a Canadian?
We didn't have an Australian on our crew.
No. Okay.
No. We had out of the original 6, we picked up 6 when we went on to the Wellingtons, and then when we transferred from the Wellingtons down into Yorkshire to the 4-engine aircraft, that's when we picked up a flight engineer.
Yeah. So just so we're looking at the operational training now. So you formed your crew of 6. You're going on to Wellingtons at the OTU at Lossiemouth. How did did the crew gel? Was it a good crew? Did you feel confidence with the crew that you had?
Yeah, he seemed happy with the crew, except when we finished the, I think it was a month's training, switching from the Wellingtons to the Halifax. When we finished, we were sent to the squadron, 158 Squadron. That's when the rest of us found out that we didn't have the flight engineer. Whereas I think his name was Smith. He wasn't around. So when we asked Jock where Smithy was, he said, I didn't think he was fully qualified. So he said, we can't go on ops with somebody like that. So that's when we picked up a spare. Okay. I think the guy's name was Flight Sergeant Flanagan. So he was our flight engineer for a while, and then I don't know how long he'd been on the squadron and for what reason he was spare. Maybe something had happened to the rest of the crew, or I don't know. But anyway, there's always a certain amount of spares around.
Okay.
So we had him for a while, and then we, during our tour, we had 2 or 3 different flight engineers.
So before
we also had the wireless operator. Our wireless operator flew about 10 or 12 missions with us, and we went on leave. And when we came back, he didn't come back from leave. He got some kind of pernicious anemia or something like that, and he died. So we got spare wireless operators from then on. So and then occasionally we get something that happened to one of the crew for some reason, we get a spare.
So before we go on to talk about your operations, Ronnie, can I just take you back to the operational training unit at Lossiemouth? Because one of the sad statistics associated with Bomber Command is the number of aircrews that were lost in training accidents.
Yeah.
I mean, do you recall much of the attrition that happened at Lossiemouth while you were there? Were there losses then?
I don't know. Well, I've got it in my, I have the book about our squadron. You know about that book, yeah.
Yeah. But what about during training? Were there any incidents during training that you can recall on Wellingtons?
I can't remember any mishaps during training. Nothing serious that I can think of. No, okay. Everything seemed to go okay with our crew. Yeah.
Did you socialise much with your crew? Did you all go out together and have a drink or 3?
Yeah, every once in a while we'd. I think it depended on how long the stand down was. Sometimes it may be just one evening. Sometimes it'd be 2 or 3 days, depending on the weather. If it was just one evening, something like that, sometimes we'd all go out together down to the local pub, and the usual thing.
Yeah.
A few beers, and at that time, most of us had a bicycle. They had bicycles on the squadron. Sometimes when you first got there, you couldn't get one. You had to wait until somebody didn't come back off a trip that had a bicycle, and you get that bicycle, and we'd cycle down to the local pub and have a few and come back.
And here comes a personal question, Ronnie. But did you have any romantic relationships at that time?
Romantic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any romantic
Oh,
relationships?
Uh-oh.
one of the WAFs on the squadron that was she was in the intelligence branch, you know. I went out with her 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. I won't press any further on that, Ronnie. We'll leave that one. So again, just to give me a chance, just to put it into a time frame here. You've gone through Lossiemouth. Then you go. Did you go to a heavy conversion unit to go on to Halifax's?
Well, yeah, it was, what's the name of it now? It was in Yorkshire.
Dishforth or Driffield or?
No, Dishforth wasn't, that was a bomber station, was Dishforth.
Yes.
At least when I was there at the beginning. I'm trying to think of the name. Ruffeth, it was called.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Just outside York.
So that's where you convert from the twin engine
That's
Wellington.
where we converted from Wellingtons to Halifaxes, yeah.
Okay. And what was your impression of the Halifax bomber?
Well, it got us there and it brought us back. It was naturally flying on a Halifax. We always thought the Halifax was a good, was just as equally as good as the Lancaster. But of course, the Lancaster always had the glory, you know, it was the baby of the Air Force. Just like here, the B-17 overlooked the B-24. Yeah, they both did the same job. I mean, we had 3 4-engine bombers, the Sterling, the Halifax, and the Lancaster. And Sterling was the first, then the Halifax, then the Lancaster was last. And of course, it had inline engines and we had radial engines. The turrets were bolt and ball on the Halifax, and on the Lancaster, they were frizz and ash.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move now, Ronnie, from heavy conversion units. You arrive at number 158 Squadron, an operational squadron.
Yes.
So can you recall your first impressions of arriving at an operational squadron? What was it like? What was the atmosphere like?
Well, everything was all spread out. Everything was dispersed, you know. Your barracks were way up there, and the mess was way over there. WAF squatters were way over there, and you know, it wasn't compact. It was all spread out.
Was the morale good on the squadron? Was it a good, well-run squadron? Was there a sense of leadership there?
Yeah, everybody. Well, I guess they got from day to day. They never know whether they'd be here or gone.
Yeah. Okay, so can you give me an approximate date when you arrived at 158 Squadron?
I know the first operation was August 24th.
Okay, so at this point, D-Day.
We went to Brest.
Yeah. So D-Day has happened at this point. D-Day's happened. The invasion of Normandy has already started.
Had already started, yeah. We went, I think the first flight was to Brest to some block ships, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So can
And then the others, we did another 5 trips over France, and they were all, I think we went to 2 flying bomb sites, La Pouchinay, and I can't remember the other. But I know we did 3 trips to Le Havre.
First operational briefing was like when you went to that briefing room. Can you paint a picture for us? Tell us what it was like and how the briefing went.
Oh, that's so long ago. Okay. Well, you know, it was our first trip. You know, you're nervous. whatever, but everything seemed to be okay until you start getting near the target. That's when those little black puffs start coming out.
Yeah.
And I guess we were very fortunate that the only time we ever got hit was the one in Christmas.
Okay, yeah. So I'll come on to that one, but I think what would be quite nice if you could do, Ronnie, is if you that when you first walked into the briefing room before a raid, what was it like? When you've got all the crews around you and they're about to tell you the target. How did they do that? How did they present the target for the day to you?
Well, naturally, you're nervous at the beginning, and then after a while, you get accustomed to it, But even now, I often say, how on earth did I sit in that turret by myself from anywhere from 4 hours to 7 hours?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I was by myself. There's nobody else there. Everybody else could see each other.
Yeah. What I'm trying to get at, Ronnie, is when you went to your briefing, and they pulled the curtain back, and they had a map on the wall. Is that right?
Yeah.
Which used to have a ribbon going from wherever you were to the actual target.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. And then just before you went on the aircraft, did you have any superstitions? Did you have any mascots that you took with you on ops? Any?
Well, some guys had a flag. Some guys had some old ladies' panties that they used to wave outside, and whatever. I can't remember. Somebody had different things, and I had a little bag with some. I can't remember what was in that Lucky Charm things or whatever, And we would. This one time, Jock was saying, "Everybody okay? Have you got this?" And I said, "Oh, I haven't got the Lucky Charms." He said, "Well, you better go get them, because we're not going without them. Everybody's superstitious." So I remember having to clamber out of the cockpit, and one of the guys run me back to the billy, and because we had plenty of time, pick up the Lucky Charms and bring them. Just superstition.
Yeah. There's another superstition I've heard about, and Angie's listening in, so I don't know. This might shatter the illusions she's got of you here, Ronnie. But is it correct that some aircrew they used to wee on the tail wheel?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I don't know whether any of ours did or not, but I heard it. I've seen one guy doing it. Yeah, he used to go pedal on their tail wheel or something.
Right, but of course you never did anything like that, of course.
No.
Okay, so the first attack, the first raids that you do, are they daylight raids, Ronnie? Are you doing them in daytime?
Yeah. Daylights. I think Gelsenkirchen was the hairiest one that I can remember going on, because when we hadn't got our own aircraft by then. We were flying on spares. When you first go to the squadron, you're using aircraft that a certain crew's been flying in, and they go on a week's leave or something like that. So you spare crews when you first get to the squadron. You'll fly on any aircraft available until that particular crew finishes their last trip, and then the aircraft reverts to somebody like us.
Yeah.
What were the,
So I think we did about maybe 10 trips or something before we got to Z Zombie, yeah. Flights and then night flights, yeah.
So the time you start operations, the Battle of Normandy is raging. So you're not penetrating too deep into enemy territory at this point. Is that right?
At the beginning, we did the 6 trips to France first, and then we didn't do any more over France. They were all over. Well, one trip to Holland, and then the rest were over Germany.
So before we get on to those German raids, Ronnie, obviously as the rear gunner, you're facing the other way to the rest of the crew.
Yeah, I'm the only one that flew backwards. Yeah.
Yes, all the way there and all the way back. But of course, you're seeing what's going on around you. So I mean, did you see any other aircraft go down, get shot down, for example?
Yeah.
And
only one time it was a daylight. I saw one go down. Yeah.
And how did that make you feel?
Itchy.
Yeah.
You know what they call finger trouble, you know?
Yeah.
Okay,
so if we go that now onto the nighttime raids, you mentioned Gelsenkirchen. I guess you were attacking the oil refineries at Gelsenkirchen.
Well, I don't remember us being hit with anything. We might have had a little ding here and there once in a while, but I don't recall anything major until we got the packet to Christmas, you know.
The trips to Gelsenkirchen, were they for the oil fields? Is that what you were bombing?
Oil fields?
Yeah.
Well, you know, oil refineries.
Yeah.
All cities and all that. We the one in particular was Duisburg. We went on 1,000 bomber raid to Duisburg. You know, imagine 1,000 bombers and a daylight, you know, going over Duisburg. And when we got back back to base and reported everything we'd seen and whatnot, then go back to your get a meal and then go back to bed. It seemed like we were in bed no time at all when we come on, you know, we had to go. We did another 1,000 bomber raid to Duisburg.
Yeah.
And that was at night. I never seen so much fire in all my life. That place was ablaze from one end to the other. And it was still, but imagine 2,000 bombers jumping on them. Yeah.
That was Operation Thunderclap. That was, Ronnie. It was in October 1944. How did that make you feel, Ronnie, about what was going on the ground and what you could see? How did that affect you?
Well, you just don't think about things like that. You just go ahead and do it. What you have to do, you know. And you just have to feel like it must be terrible down there. You know what's going on.
Yeah. Can I take you back to the night raids? Can you describe to us the scene on a night raid over a German target? What could you see? What was happening during the night, the defenses, that sort of thing?
Well, you know, to tell you the truth, when there was any daylight, you know, daylight raids, and you go over cities and things like that, you're too busy searching the skies, you know. You don't want to be attacked by a fighter or whatever, you know. You don't want to be looking down there too much. The main purpose for us is to safeguard the aircraft if you can, you know. But I used to think, I feel sorry for those people down there, but, you know, at the time, you think, well, they're the enemy, you know.
Did you ever get caught in searchlights?
I think one time but it was only it wasn't for long. It was out of it in no time, you know.
Did you ever have to corkscrew?
No, I don't think I ever had to. I don't think I ever had to give that order. No, I don't think we were attacked. Because at night time, it's hard to see. In daylight, you could see if the fighters are going to attack you.
Yeah. So
But, I don't think I ever had to tell our skipper to corkscrew. The only time I've done that is when it's been in training or fighter affiliation, something like that.
So obviously, I know what corkscrew is, Ronnie, and you know what corkscrew is. But you know, people who might be watching, your family might be watching this, might not know.
I think the only I don't think we did any corkscrew on operations.
Explain what a corkscrew is.
A corkscrew, well, imagine I'm sitting in the turret here, and we're flying that way, and there's a fighter come to attack us. Now, depending if he's going to come up from the starboard quarter, up or down, or the port quarter, up or down, you would call out to the pilot, fighter, starboard or port quarter, up or down, and you tell him. And if you tell him it's, say, the port quarter up, he would corkscrew to the port. Because if you corkscrew to starboard, the fighter's coming that way. When he corkscrews this other way, the fighter's heading this way. So then the fighter turns towards you, and then the bomber turns the other way, you know. And all this time, the fighter's getting closer, so he has to break away. Unless he's firing his guns or something, hoping that he doesn't hit you, you know.
So what would I be right in saying, Ronnie, that your prime job as the rear gunner is to evade contact with the enemy rather than engage the enemy?
Yeah, it's just to safeguard the aircraft from rear attacks, you know.
Yeah. Because
you've got a mid-upper gunner that does the upper part and the forward, you know. They don't usually attack you from the front. Yes. They mostly attack you from either underneath or from the sides or the rear. Yeah. So but fortunately for us, either we were lucky, or I always found, especially in daylight, that if they see, the fighter sees it, the gunner is ready, you know, they usually go look for somebody who's half asleep. Yeah.
So some of these raids you're on, Ronnie, you're in that turret, in that cramped space there for 6-7 hours. How did you maintain your, how did you keep yourself alert?
Well, most of the time you're looking around and fidgeting, you know, whatever, because you can't sit still, you fall asleep. I guess some guys have fallen asleep. That's one thing I never did. I never did fall asleep. But, I know it's happened to quite a few, you know, they fall asleep, and maybe that's why they got hit. I don't know.
How did you keep yourself warm?
I had a heated suit. By that time, in the later part of the war, they had, you know what a boiler suit is?
Yes.
Well, it's like that, and it had a tube from the waist that plugged in to you, like your dash, you know, that gives you the electricity. And it had two little metal snaps at the bottom, because you have these little soft mittens, not mittens, socks that you put on your feet, and they had little snaps on them. They snapped onto the bottom. You had little gloves that snapped onto the wrist, for your hands. So we used to wear 3 pair of gloves. Mittens and like silky ones, wool ones, and then the leather ones.
Because in your turret, I know some rear gunners, Ronnie, they used to take the perspex away so that they could have a better view out of their turret. Did you do that at all?
I never heard of that. I never heard of that. It could have happened, but I don't know.
What did you have? Browning machine guns?
Did I what?
Have Browning machine guns?
Browning machine guns.
Oh, yeah, they were all Brownings. 3.303, 4,
4.
Okay. 2, 1 above each other. The control on the Halifax was 1 control in the middle, like the joystick on a fighter, and a button on the top. On the Lancaster, they had a different turret. It was called Fraser Nash, and they had 2 controls. Yeah.
So
this one took care of the 2 guns here, and this one they had 2 guns here.
Yeah. So before, I'd like to talk more about the operation that you did on Christmas Eve, but before we get to that, you've got all this stress and strain of operations. How did you relax? How did you deal with cope with the stresses and the strains of flying operations?
Oh, what you mean when you came back and had to stand down? What did we do and all that?
Yes, but yeah.
Well, if you was on the camp, if you couldn't leave the camp, you'd probably end up in the mess or having a drink in the mess, or if you could maybe go down to the village and have a few or whatever. Sometimes I don't know, maybe write a few letters or whatever. Yeah.
Right, okay. And did you what about losses on the squadron? Were there any losses at the time you were there, and did they affect you? Did you lose friends, for example?
Any what?
Losses.
Any losses?
Casualties. Losses, casualties.
Oh, losses. Yeah, there was I can't remember just how many. It's all in my book. I'm not quite sure. I know they lost over 500 aircrew. Well, 500 aircrew on our squadron.
Did you make friends with any other crews, or did you stick with your crew?
Well, most of the guys stuck on their own crews. Occasionally, you didn't have time to. Well, I think one of the reasons was you didn't want to get really friendly with them in case something happened to them,
Because why?
You usually either once in a while you go out, the whole crew would go out together down to the local village, pub, whatever, whatever. And then if you could go off base and go to, in our case, going to Bridlington or whatever. I know the bomber and and the mid-upper gunner, they were pally.
Yeah.
And just one time I remember coming back over and we had to land at Horsham St. Faith in Norfolk because our base was fogged in. We used to get a lot of fog in those days. We couldn't land at Lissa because it was foggy. So we had to land at this American base and stay the night.
So that was an American base that you landed at?
Well, I forget where we went that time.
Yeah, but sorry, Ronnie, it was an American base you landed at, was it?
Yeah, we landed at a B-24 base. Yeah.
What was the food like there?
Everything on one plate, Well, we weren't used to that rich food. And then I remember the coffee. They don't, all our guys drink tea. They got the Yanks drink coffee, and they had this big urn of coffee. It was like syrup. It was so strong. And then they gave us any of you guys smoke? Well, in those days, nearly everybody smoked. So they gave, so they gave us a carton of cigarettes each. And other guys that didn't smoke, the other guys would say, tell him to smoke. So we get, And then they let us go in their PX, where they got all candies and sweet stuff and fruit and whatever. I mean, we never had anything like that.
Okay, so Ron, if we could get to this Christmas Eve raid where you have this incident, can you describe that incident to us? It was this raid to Essen-Mulheim.
The flight, we went to an airfield near the Ruhr. It was a fighter station, and we were going to clobber that. And when you have your bomber crews squadron flying, you've got three leaders. You've got the point and the starboard and the port leaders. And we were a starboard leader because we'd been on the squadron quite a while then, We were supposed to be one of the experienced crews. And so we were coming up to the target. And then, of course, I don't know what's going on up front. I'm looking backwards all the time, I could see some of the other RAF, flying on and that. Bang, I didn't know what happened because the intercom went off. Nobody telling me anything or whatever. So I'm still sitting there wondering what had happened. And the aircraft kept flying, and it wasn't until we carried on, bombed the target, and on the way back, that's when I found out what had happened. I think the skipper sent one of the other guys to come back and tell me, what had happened, and we're okay and all that, because I couldn't talk on the intercom. And it was shook me up, because at the time I thought, God damn it, all this time, and it's Christmas time, and I'm going to be a guest of Hitler's for Christmas, But like nothing, we got back okay, and we landed at Carnaby, which is on the east coast, not far from the squadron, but it was an emergency landing strip. I think it was wider. You just went one way, and I think something special on the like tarmac, the tarmac there. It was something special that was more cushiony. Anyway, because the skipper didn't know whether the undercarriage would hold up because his gauges weren't working right or something. And of course we landed okay. And then when we all piled out, and we saw the damage. Yeah.
When you're in your rear turret, where's your parachute? When you're in your
just say I'm sitting in the turret like this. Behind me, there are two doors that open like this. They slide around. Imagine all this in front of me here is all plastic, and the guns are here. And it's like a little dash, that's all. Yeah. You can only move about this much, and the doors, you have to slide open and curve around, and just inside on the fuselage, it's hung up there. So if you have to bail out, you've got to open your doors, reach in there, get the parachute, hack it on, and then turn your turret around, open it, and bail out backwards.
Yeah. So on this incident where you were this incident where you were hit by the flak, obviously you've got, you're thinking, where's my parachute? Are you just having that in your mind, are you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the rest of the crew was, let's see, the mid-upper gunner can get out the midships, the door where you first get in your aircraft, and he can get out that way. Maybe the wireless operator, the others go out the front, if they have to.
Yeah. Were any of the crew injured?
Oh, no, not really injured. The radio or the wireless operator, behind him, there was a sheet of armor plating. And when we got hit with the shell, to this day, nobody knows whether it was an armor piercing shell or a shell that just didn't explode. But it went to, it came through the Astrodome and out the other side. And of course it didn't explode. So, but the damage was done by the oxygen bottles. There's a stack of oxygen bottles there, and it hit those. Of course, they blew up. That blew the hole in the side of the aircraft, and a lot of the perspex was blown out. The bomb aimer got frostbite on his right hand, on his fingers, because he still had to. When this happened, he still had to go on and bomb.
So do you know what sort of height were you at this point?
18,000.
So you were on oxygen, but your oxygen's been destroyed. So what are you going to do? What did you do?
They, as far as I know, they just went on to the target, bombed, and on the way back, then we started dropping down. Otherwise, we wouldn't been able to breathe. And it was damn cold.
Yeah.
Because the heated soup wouldn't work no more. It was really cold. As far as I can remember, it came down to probably about 9,000. So we could
So
breathe.
you didn't need to be on oxygen. Are you a religious man, Ronnie? Were you a religious man?
Not overly, not really. No.
No, I just wondered if you prayed or anything like that while this was going
Oh, yeah, I
on.
prayed. Oh, yes, I prayed that. Yeah.
You gotta have insurance, right?
Yeah.
So when you touched down after this raid, you were telling me that you were very popular on the squadron. Is that right?
Yes, we were. Our crew was very popular on the squadron. Yeah.
Right. And the fact that you'd come back from this raid gave you some kind of status, did it?
Yeah. I think we had. Let's see. No, I think we did. I thought we did more trips on the aircraft. After that, I thought they patched it up, but evidently we didn't. They gave us another aircraft.
But did I mean, 'cause this raid that you flew on, I think it was something like mid-tour or whatever. So you're quite confident. Did this affect your confidence in regard to the next operations you were going on?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we just felt kind of lucky,
Do you know what number operation that was in your tour?
Let's see, I think that was the 24th. I think we did another one on the 28th. And then I think we went into January. And we had 6 more trips to do before we were taken off.
Yeah,
And the last one was to, can't remember the name of the place, but it was not far from Berlin. I forget the name of it now, but it wasn't too far from Berlin. we went to when it was at night time. And I know that one crew that we knew, I can't remember the name right now, that we knew pretty well, they didn't make it on that trip. Yeah. They were shot down. Yeah.
So just for the recording, because obviously I know what it means. Was how many operations did you have to do as a tour? What was a tour of ops?
Well, they worked on a point system. You had to get 120 points. It didn't make any difference whether there was daylight or night. You had to get 120 points. You got 4 points for a German trip. You got 3 points for a French trip. We did 6 French trips and the rest were all over Germany.
And that got you to your 120 points. Yeah.
So we did 32 trips altogether.
And what was the feeling? How did you feel when you landed on that last op?
Oh, as if a big load had been taken off your back, you know? And I have to say, how the hell did I sit all that time in that turret by myself, flying backwards? Nobody to talk to, because you can't talk on the intercom unless it's something having to do with flying. If you start chirping on the intercom, the pilot would tell you to shut up.
Was it quite a disciplined crew then that you had?
Oh, they were kind of loose and easy, but when we were up there flying, each one had to do the job, and that was it.
Yeah. So once you'd finished your operations, yeah. I guess you had a bit of a party. Or did you all just go off on leave?
No, we didn't. I can't remember having a party. It was, you know, the thing is, once you finish, they can't wait to get rid of you. You know, you got to get off or do that, whatever. And what made it different on our crew, now the mid-upper gunner, he got married while we were in operations, and then his son was born in the north. No, he got married when we came back from abroad. Then his son was born while we were in operations, and going through the logbook and checking on things, I found out that 5 of the trips that we went on, he didn't go. And I didn't realize that. I know one of them, because I know when he went home, when the baby was born. But I didn't even know he was missing on those others. They just put substitutes on, spare men, you know.
Yeah, spare bods, wasn't it?
The pilot and I are the only 2 that flew all 32 missions together. Right. The the bomb aimer missed 1. The trip after we got hit, when he got frostbite in his hand, he had the next flight off till his fingers got on it. And the navigator missed the last flight. So, and then 1 died, so that's 3 of them. And what was the other? And then there's Jock and I, yeah. So Jock and I was the only 2 that flew the whole 32 together.
So what did you do then? Now that you finished ops, what did the RAF?
Well, it seemed to me they couldn't get rid of you fast enough. It seemed to me that, because after we'd finished and come back, I never got a chance to get together with the other guys and have a little party on our own, you know. But they couldn't seem to get rid of you quick enough.
Where did you go?
They sent me home on leave. And it was whilst I was home on leave, I got a telegram to report back to the squadron and bring all my stuff with me, which I did, and that's when they told me I got a commission.
Right. And what you become a pilot officer or a warrant officer? Were you?
Which way?
What was that?
A warrant officer.
Well, when you first came down, you're a pilot officer, and I was a flying officer. if I'd have stayed in another few months, I'd have made flight lieutenant.
And what was your job on the squadron then? What was your role?
Oh God! When I got commissioned, I had to hand all my stuff in, and the weather was cold. It snow on the ground and all that. I had to hand all my outfit in. The only thing I could keep was the battle dress, and they had to give me a warrant officer's cap, for the time being, and then sent me back home with a voucher for £50. And then I had to go get my uniform and raincoat, big coat, anything else I could get for that £50, which wasn't enough. I had to put money to it to get the rest of the stuff.
Did you?
And then from there, I was sent to report to. Oh God. It was another squadron not too far from where Lissett was, home on Spalding Moor. I was going to go there as an instructor or something, but when I got there, they decided they weren't going to do that anymore. I was going to be instructor on camera flying. And the one.
How did you come to leave the RAF, and then how did you come to end up in America?
Well, I met my wife in the RAF. She was stationed at at Kirkham, where I was. And I was debating whether to stay in or whatever. And then I thought, no, I'll go out. Because she was wanting to get out. Married women, when the war ended, if they were in the service, they could come out straight away. But single had to wait the turn till their number came out. So we decided to get married so she could get out of the service. Yeah.
I'm sure there were other reasons as well.
That doesn't sound very romantic.
No. Yeah. And then how did you come to end up in America?
Well, my wife had a sister who was much, I think she was about 20 years older than my sister and my wife. She was the oldest in their family. And she decided to come to America in 47. And she ended up, well, she went to Dallas first, and then she ended up in Los Angeles. Then she ended up in Bakersfield, and she and her husband were in real estate. And then she kept writing to us because phones weren't like they were now. She kept writing to us and asking us, why don't you come over here? And in the end, some lady, she met a girl here whose mother came from England after the First World War. And she was going back for the coronation. And so she said, well, when you go, where are you going to? And she told her what city and whatever. Oh, that's where my sister lives. And so she came to see us when she came over. And she was trying to paint a good picture of why don't you come over? And so actually, she really came to see another couple. And they were supposed to come over, but it turned out that we came over in 54, and this other couple came over in 58. And we got to be real good friends. They both passed away, and their daughter lives in Camarillo, a very good friend of mine. Yeah. so we still correspond. So she came to get them to come over, and we came over first. Yeah.
Ronnie, did you keep in touch with your crew at all?
Well, I didn't know where they were because, when we first left the squadron, they never told us. And when they got to meet each other, they couldn't get rid of you fast enough. So, yeah. The only one that I managed to get in contact with was the navigator, the one that lived in New Zealand. We used to correspond, and I found out through the squadron reunion in Bridlington.
Yeah.
I went to the reunion twice, and they had his address, so I contacted him, and we wrote back and forth to each other. I couldn't get my wife to go to New Zealand. I wanted to go visit them, but I couldn't get her to go to New Zealand. No. She said it's too long a flight. If it had been Las Vegas, she'd have said, "Oh yeah."
She's a wise woman, yes. Yeah.
So we wrote to each other until somewhere in the middle 90s. He passed away,
Right.
and I when I somehow or other through the going to see the squadron reunion, I found out about the mid-upper gunner. And one time when I went over on a visit, I drove up to find him in where the heck was it? Up on the East Coast, up above Newcastle anyway. Yeah, that's where he lived, and I met him, but he was in bad shape. He had those braces on his arms and was walking like that. He could hardly hear. He couldn't see all that well. It was in probably 2000, the year 2000. Yeah, because he died the next year, same year as my brother. Yeah.
So Ronnie, just reflecting back now on those war days, how do you think your experiences affected you?
I don't know. It made you grow up pretty fast, I'll tell you that. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It made me appreciate things more.
What you did, what you contributed to the war?
Well, a lot of other people contributed a lot more, but I guess I did what I had to do.
I think that's very.
Most of the time, I just sat there.
Well, I think 32 operations in a rear turret is more than just doing your bit, but you're like that generation, aren't you? You're very, very humble in that respect.
I've often sat and thought, how the hell did I sit there all that time without going crazy?
You might be crazy. We don't know. You might.
Nobody to talk to or anything like that. Nobody to see.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, I'm not the only one.
I can tell you, he makes up for it now. He talks to everybody.
Good. So, are you aware, Ronnie, of what's been happening in the UK in sort of the last decade? Are you aware of the Bomber Command Memorial in London?
I haven't seen the monument at all. Have you seen it?
Oh yes, yeah, I was quite heavily involved in the fundraising for it. Yeah, I was just going to say.
Well, I haven't been over there since 2008 was the last time I went over.
Right. Well, if you ever do come over again,
I don't think it was built by then.
No, it was built in 2012. So there's there's a very nice memorial at Lisset. I think that memorial they've got at Lisset. I don't know if you've seen that. of the 7 men standing.
Yeah.
That's,
Well,
that's a lovely memorial.
If I live long enough and I think I'm healthy enough, they're sending me to the Washington DC.
Right. Well, if you want to, if when you get to Washington, you want to keep going across the water and get to the UK, let me know. I'll take you to the RAF club for lunch, and because just across the road from the RAF club is the Bomber Command Memorial.
Because it looks like I'm going to be the first RAF guy to go to Washington on the honor flight.
Good. Okay. I think I've taken up a lot of your time there, Ronnie. That was 1 hour and 20 minutes. So
Oh, so long?
yeah, it's gone very, very quickly. But I mean that's fascinating. There is some interesting stuff. That's good.